Roman Anthony's extension shows that the Boston Red Sox are not acting like a small market team.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's free. So make sure you tune in because Locked On is your team every single day. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the show. The Red Sox just won yet another series against the Kansas City Royals. Frustrating loss in Game 3 of that series, but can't win them all. That's just how baseball goes. Too many games, but they did win the series, and that's what it's about moving forward. Just continue to win series and continue to just field your best players out there and just make the 100% effort to try to do your best to win every single night. And sometimes it's not going to fall your way. And that was the case last night. I'm going to be talking a little bit about that later on today's show when I talk about my general series takeaways from this series, as well as Dustin May, who made his debut for the Boston Red Sox last night. But the biggest topic of conversation for today is Roman Anthony has been extended by the Boston Red Sox. How exciting is that? Former number one overall prospect in baseball, now the star rookie outfielder, made his money. Talk about a big payday for a 21-year-old kid. He signed an 8-year, $130 million contract extension to stick with the Red Sox. It happened yesterday afternoon. So heading to the game, big news for him and big news for the Red Sox. They were riding a 7-game win streak, so vibes were already really high, and then that just added even more to the vibe. And an hour and a half before first pitch, he actually walked around Fenway Park in a blue checkered suit rather than his normal batting practice attire because, this is a special occasion, so it calls for something fancier. So the way that this extension is structured for him is it begins with the 2026 season and includes escalators that could bring the overall value up to $230 million. The deal also includes a 2034 club option for $30 million because technically the 8 years would go past 2033. And then it also includes escalators for either a first or second place rookie of the year finish if he finishes 1st through 10th in MVP voting, and all-star selections are a part of that too. So the escalators includes the elevation of money and him being able to make more, but also he would become a free agent 1 year earlier if he meets some of those qualifications. So that's having to do with his performance, but the Red Sox have him locked up for the foreseeable future, which is very exciting. He said, I couldn't think of a better city to play in for the next 8 to 9 years of my life. And I'm super excited. I want to thank all the fans who show up every day and continue to support us regardless of the outcome. It's really just a special place to play and a special place to show up every single day. I couldn't be more excited for this and couldn't be more thankful for everyone in this room and everyone who's helped me get here today. That was what he had said during his press conference when they announced the extension, and he's super excited about it. One thing to know about Roman Anthony is that he is super quiet but super humble. Because I've worked closely with a lot of the players in Worcester this year, I've gotten to know Roman pretty well, and he's not the most vocal kid, kind of on the shyer side, but he's just incredibly humble and just is there to put 100% effort in every single day, and you would never know based on the way that he acts that he was a former number one overall prospect in the sport, and that attitude is going to get him places. It's just been such a whirlwind year for him because he was called up to the majors just under 2 months ago after a really fast ascent through the minors. And entering last night's game, he had slashed a 283 batting average, 400 on base percentage, and 428 slugging with an 828 OPS and 19 RBIs in 46 games since he debuted on June 9th. So all of those numbers were what earned him that extension. He's played a big part in the Red Sox recent success too, as he notched his first career walk-off on Friday night to set the tone for what ended up being a 3-game sweep of the Houston Astros. So the way that he's been contributing to this Red Sox team has truly just been remarkable to see. And for him, he just portrays so much plate discipline for somebody his age and just so much maturity, the way that he carries himself both on and off the field. But his swing decisions go far beyond what somebody his age typically would be doing. We saw Cedar Rafaela struggle a lot with swing decisions in his rookie season, kind of chasing a lot of pitches outside the zone. You really don't see that a lot from Roman. He takes his walks, he doesn't strike out at a high rate, and he's able to make really good contact. Now, he still needs to unlock his power a little bit. That's definitely something that I'd like to see a little bit more of from him, is really hone in on that power that he definitely has in him to be able to just smash balls out of Fenway. Once he starts doing that, then you really will see the full package of what Roman Anthony is. And on top of all of this, what's crazy is that he's still just 21 years old. Trevor Story actually spoke on it and said it's hard to believe, man, just given his stature, the way he carries himself, his maturity level, and all that follows him onto the field too. Just a special person, a special player, obviously someone who's going to be around for a long time, and pumped that he's on our squad. Roman Anthony's extension is the latest in a line of early extensions issued by Craig Breslow in his tenure. He signed Christian Campbell to an 8-year, $60 million contract in April with just 6 days of service time. And a year earlier, he gave the same treatment to Cedar Rafaela, who signed for 8 years, $50 million. The Red Sox and Anthony had previously engaged in extension talks during spring training before he had a feel for playing in the majors or living in Boston. And now, just 159 at-bats into his big league career, the outfielder was sold on the experience. And as for the Red Sox front office, they knew really early on that Roman was a player that they wanted to invest in. Breslow said, I don't think we view him all that differently in terms of recognizing that this was an incredibly mature 20-year-old at the time, 21-year-old now, but someone that we felt like was going to successfully transition to the big leagues. Someone that we believed could be a cornerstone player for us. The path to regular playing time wasn't super clear, but this was always someone for whom we had really, really high expectations. So there's no doubt in the Red Sox front office's mind that this was a deal they were planning to get done for a while. He was a player that they had identified as special for so long, and they were excited for his call-up, but quite frankly, it had less to do with just the immediate impact that he made on the major league team, which of course is really special, but the overall package of what he offers and even what he was doing in the minors showed the Red Sox, hey, this is a special kid. This is somebody who we want to lock up long-term. And in a testament to their support of Roman, a number of players were in attendance for Wednesday's press conference. Fellow rookie Marcelo Meyer and then Romy Gonzalez and Jarren Duran were the first in the room, with a dozen or so other teammates fleshing out the back 2 rows and creating a standing room only section. So he had a bunch of support from his team. Meyer said, super happy. Roman's a brother to me. I've played with him for a couple of years now. Just to see his dreams come true in that aspect makes me super happy for him and his family. So the Red Sox have a lot to be happy about as of late. They entered Wednesday having won 14 of their last 15 games at Fenway. So now it would be 15 of 16 after they lost last night. And their 39-22 home record is second behind Toronto for best in the American League. And they are absolutely rolling. And now they've locked in yet another young star for the foreseeable future. Roman said it's super exciting when you talk about how young we are and the mix that we have of the great veteran guys that we have. So there's a lot to be excited about. And knowing that in this process was a big reason as to why I wanted to stay here and be with those guys and grow with those guys. So he's really excited about the future that the Red Sox have, and he loves playing in Boston, and that's a reason why he knew he wanted to stay. And this contract contract is a really team-friendly deal because they are the ones that can choose to exercise the option for 2034 if they want. They are the ones paying him a really reasonable amount of money. And what does this show about the Red Sox front office? That they are no longer going to listen to conversation that they are cheap and that they don't want to pay anybody. Yes, they paid Rafael Devers, and yes, they traded him a couple of years into that deal. But what this shows is that the Red Sox are no longer being cheap. They are extending the players that they feel are worth extending, that they see as cornerstone pieces for their future. Basically pulling a Houston Astros from a while back before the Astros were really relevant and going to the World Series what felt like super consistently, when they just had a bunch of young players and they were trying to figure out who was going to be a key piece to that future. They wanted to retain a lot of guys who they felt like could lead them a path to success. So Roman Anthony's for sure one of those players. They've extended Garrett Crochet. They've extended Brian Bayo. They've extended Christian Campbell and Sadam Rafaela. So this is the Red Sox setting a tone of, just because we traded Rafael Devers doesn't mean we're cheap. It means we just didn't feel like he was part of the future for what we're trying to accomplish here. And with where the Red Sox are at now, they know that Roman Anthony is a part of that future. So this is a big statement by the Red Sox front office that shows we are not being cheap. And it really could help turn the feelings of some of the fans more towards what the Red Sox are trying to do now and moving forward. And speaking of the now, the Red Sox made a big trade at the trade deadline for starting pitcher Dustin May, who made his debut for the team on Wednesday. I'm going to be discussing that a little bit next. First, though, when you are thinking about daily fantasy sports, what pops in your mind? Football, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever it may be, PrizePicks is the best fantasy platform for you. It's a daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up and college football isn't far behind. It's the perfect time to lock in your season-long more or less picks for the 2025 football season, all before week 1 kicks off. So an example, I've already made a few of my season-long picks. Josh Allen for more than 27.5 touchdowns feels like a solid shot. Or you could even do a team's wins. Are they going to win over 7.5 games, for example? So it's a great app to keep you involved in a fantasy capacity. And the flex play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still doubled my money. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. I am telling you, if you start using PrizePicks today, you will get addicted. And don't say that I didn't warn you, because trust me, I 100% did. So make sure you download the app today and start using it and start utilizing all of those fantasy options. So the Boston Red Sox and Craig Breslow got a lot, and I mean a lot, of criticism for the trade deadline that they had. And rightfully so, because of the fact that people felt like they still had holes in the roster that they didn't really address at the deadline, like acquiring a true first baseman who could play every day instead of platooning between Romy Gonzalez and Abraham Toro, like trying to acquire a backup catcher because Connor Wong, unfortunately, is basically an automatic out every time he goes out there, which is incredibly disappointing. So the Red Sox didn't make those types of moves, but what they did do is they added a couple pitchers at the deadline in Steven Matz and Dustin May. Now, if you think about Dustin May, his entire career has been spent with the Dodgers, was drafted in 2016, made his debut in 2019, was injured for the entirety of the 2024 season, and has won the World Series with the Dodgers. So he has so many memories out in LA. So for a pitcher like that to be traded at the deadline, have to uproot your life from the West Coast to the East Coast, have to adapt mentally to being in a new surrounding with a new team. Oh, and on top of that, be expected to go out and pitch well. There's a lot of circumstances that go into that when you first trade for a player at the deadline. It's a little bit different in the offseason because the player has all of spring training to be with their new team and to adapt to being in this new location that they're in and surrounded by different players. But it's a lot different when it's the trade deadline and you've thrown with one team for so much of the season and then you have to go across the country for the last couple of months. So it's been a whirlwind for Dustin May, but the Red Sox acquired him at the trade deadline with the intention of him being the number 5 starter. They still see Garrett Crochet, Lucas Giolito, and Brian Bayo being that 1 through 3 part of the rotation, and then with Walker Buehler and Dustin May in there. And Dustin May certainly is an upgrade from what we saw out of Richard Fitts. I think the Red Sox were really trying to give Fitts as many options as they could, but he wasn't figuring it out. He's back down in AAA, and Dustin May essentially is supposed to be taking his spot in the rotation. So the Red Sox don't have high expectations for him to be some stud starting pitcher for the rotation, and he doesn't really need to be because of how much Bayo and Giolito have been stepping up this year. And that's what's been great about the Red Sox pitching staff this year and the way that they've been able to surprise people. So there's not a ton of high expectations on Dustin May, but obviously Red Sox fans want to see him be super successful so that the Red Sox can salvage some of what they got at the trade deadline and try to say, you know, we might not have made a ton of moves, but the moves we made were impactful. So Dustin May made his Red Sox debut on Wednesday night when the Red Sox lost to the Royals 7-3, and it wasn't exactly the outing that he was hoping for. He took the loss in this game, moving his record this year to 6-8. Obviously, the record shouldn't really be weighed in too much because every other start that he's had has been with the Dodgers. But he went 3 2/3 innings, giving up 6 hits and 3 earned runs with 1 walk and 4 strikeouts. So obviously they didn't get length from him. He threw 91 pitches over 3 2/3. But here's the thing. 61 of his 91 pitches went for strikes. So it's not like his command was off. He was throwing his pitches in the strike zone. He just was getting hit. His ERA is now a 4.93 on the season. And he had a strong arsenal. He had a fastball that topped about 96, his cutter, which is his best pitch truly. And then he also had a sinker and a sweeper that he would mix in there. So he had a 4-pitch arsenal that he was using throughout the course of the outing. And here's why I'm not overly concerned about where Dustin May is at right now. Again, circumstantially, like I mentioned before, it's an overwhelming situation for a pitcher to have to go into a brand new situation at the trade deadline. First of all, feeling probably a lot of jet lag and having to adjust to the time difference from being on the East Coast versus the West Coast. Obviously, some time has passed now, so he could be a little bit more acclimated to the time zone here on the East Coast now, but that's all things you have to think about. I mean, the guy's human at the end of the day. We're all human, and nobody is expected to just be perfect at everything. And you have to remember the human-like qualities of this player. But because of the fact that his command was there and he was throwing strikes, it's a lot easier to fix something that's arsenal based than it is to fix command. If you can't throw it in the strike zone, your pitching coach can't really fix that. Whereas Andrew Bailey can go in and help Dustin May to fix his rhythm and the routine and repetition of the way that he's going about throwing his pitches, his pitch selection, and which pitches he's utilizing where. That's something that Andrew Bailey has always taken pride in and has been good at, is adjusting people's arsenal and their usage of their pitches to be able to find more success. And he's been able to unlock something with Brian Bayo, who struggled a lot last year, and we've seen a lot of growth from this season. So when you look at Andrew Bailey and the way that he works with the pitching staff, he definitely is onto something when it comes to the arsenal-based subjects about pitching. What I noticed about Dustin May's outing is that whenever he got a couple quick outs, he would then get into a little bit of trouble. We saw it in both the third inning and in the fourth inning. In the fourth inning, especially, he got 2 quick outs, and then the inning kind of unraveled for him. So the issue was that he wasn't executing the right pitch at the right time. And that is something that I truly do feel like Andrew Bailey can hone in on, because if you look at other pitchers across the Red Sox organization, if their struggles more lie in them being wild and not able to locate the strike zone, those are the pitchers that typically don't find success longer term within the organization. Jordan Hicks is a pitcher that's an example of that, who definitely there's cause for concern about, because when he's out there, a lot of times for him, it's his command that's off. He threw in the game last night. He didn't look great. 1 inning, gave up 3 hits and 3 earned runs with 1 strikeout. He gave up a home run that he absolutely let Jonathan India demolish. That was where the 3 runs all came from, because it was a 3-run homer. He threw 21 pitches with 13 of them for strikes. So again, his command was fine in last night's game. But we've seen so many instances in which Jordan Hicks's command was completely off and he just didn't have it. Like in that first game of the series against the Twins, where they had that huge rain delay for an hour and a half in between the top and the bottom of the 9th inning. So then he came into the game to try to close it out in the bottom of the 9th and couldn't do it after he hit a couple batters and gave up a base hit, and he just was all over the place. So you can't really fix the command, because you can't tell a guy go throw strikes and then expect him to go throw strikes. He either has to execute that or he's not going to. Whereas if you're Andrew Bailey, you're sitting down with Dustin May and saying, okay, let's break down this arsenal. You have a great cutter. That should be your put away pitch, because that certainly, even from experiencing it last night, seems to be his best and most confident pitch. So that is what he should focus on as his essentially good night pitch to a hitter. Then if you add these other pitches in, the fastball should definitely continue to be utilized a lot. I mean, the velocity certainly could be a little bit better there. That's something that I'm going to be monitoring as the rest of the season progresses. But overall, those 2 pitches are definitely pitches that he should be leaning on. And then you mix in those other 2 off-speed pitches that I mentioned previously, and he could find a good balance of how to utilize those. I just felt like in his start last night, he wasn't really utilizing those pitches to the best of his ability. So that's the good news here with Dustin May, is that a lot of what we saw from him is fixable. And he is a guy who the Red Sox can work with. I mean, keep in mind, this is a guy who's won a World Series. This is a guy who has pitched under the most pressure-filled situations. And this is a guy who we've seen struggle and has bounced back. Now, again, injured all of last year, not really sure how he was going to come into this season. And he hasn't pitched overly great for the Dodgers, but he also hasn't been terrible. And I just feel like if the Red Sox can unlock that one thing when it comes to his arsenal and utilizing different pitches a little bit better, you will see him start to bounce back. His next outing will likely be better than this first one was. Had to get the nerves out, had to get used to being in a new uniform and representing a different team and wanting to make a good impression on the fan base. That all goes through a pitcher's head when they're pitching for a new team for the first time. So definitely keep all of that in mind. So we'll have to see how that all goes for him. But coming up, I'm going to be discussing some other series takeaway with this series against the Royals. If you're looking to score last-minute tickets to any sort of live event, look no further than Gametime. I have friends who are notorious for last-minute planning. They do it all the time, whether it's for a concert, a sporting event, or a comedy show. They'll text the morning of and say, hey, does anybody want to go to this tonight? Gametime is 100% the place for you, and it's cheaper than other ticketing vendors. That's exactly what I love the most about it. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. The clear seat views is great, like a place like Fenway Park where there are some obstructed views because of the poles. You can prevent yourself from getting a seat in those areas because Gametime will actually show you what the view looks like from your seat. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It really will guarantee you the lowest price. You will not want to miss out on this deal. I have not used any other ticketing vendor since I started using Gametime because especially if you are looking to go with multiple people, you can find some great deals there that you really can't find anywhere else. So make sure you download Gametime today. And if you want to go to the Red Sox game when they come back from their road trip, by all means do it. Speaking of the Red Sox going on their road trip, they do have a tough road trip coming up against the Astros and the Padres. They just swept the Astros at Fenway, but that Houston team is good at home, so I'm sure it's going to be a completely different series than what we saw in Boston. Then they go to San Diego to face an always tough Padres team. So gotta grind out these next two series here, and then they'll be back home to face the Marlins, which should be a winnable series. But some tough games coming up here, and they played a really strong series against the Royals, and there were several different things that we could take away from that. They won the first game of the series 8-5, then they won the second game 6-2, and then they fell 7-3 in game 3. In the first game of the series, Brayan Bello started, and he pitched really well once again. 6 innings, giving up 6 hits and 1 run, but it was unearned with 1 walk and 5 strikeouts. Brayan Bello continues to just be a solid number 2 starter for this Red Sox team. He's been a guy that they can lead on and trust on, and that's been really good to feel as a fan because there were always some question marks surrounding Brayan Bello. In the first half of the season last year, he struggled massively. And then in the second half, he started mixing his fastball more back into his arsenal, and it worked. And he's ended up finding a lot more success. I did ask him when he was rehabbing in Worcester this year from his injury that he had prior to this season if he was going to plan to utilize the fastball a lot this season since it worked for him last year. He said absolutely yes, and here we are. Another solid start from Bello. He is going to be key for this Red Sox team if they are going to make a deep postseason run this season. Jorge Alcala pitched, which was absolutely brutal in that game. He pitched just a third of an inning and gave up 3 hits and 3 earned runs with 1 strikeout. He gave up 2 home runs in the inning. And what was really bad was he came in when the Red Sox were up 8-1. And that just cannot happen where you're up 8-1 and then you're forced to use high leverage relievers because the Red Sox had to turn to Justin Wilson, Garrett Whitlock, and Aroldis Chapman in that game. All guys who they view as arguably their best arms in the pen, and they have to turn to them now in a game that the Red Sox had a 7-run lead. That's just not okay. Red Sox ended up DFAing Alcala after that because he has been put into several games this season in which the Red Sox had a big lead and then he closed the gap and they had to go to their high leverage guys when they shouldn't have needed to do that. So I was really happy to see him go, but good solid 8-5 win. Trevor Story continues to be a big story for this Red Sox team. In the first game of the series, he went 1 for 3 with a walk and a strikeout. So he's still been contributing at the plate. When the Red Sox won 6-2 in the second game of the series, they had their ace on the mound. Garrett Crochet was great as always. 7 innings pitched, giving up 4 hits and 2 earned runs with 1 walk and 8 strikeouts. He now has a 2.24 ERA on the season. Yes, he gave up 2 runs and it was tough, but completely dominant other than that. And then Greg Weisser and Jordan Hicks were both turned to come into that game. But Trevor Story went 2 for 4 in that game and drove in 3 runs for the Red Sox. So when I tell you he truly has been a big storyline for this Red Sox team as of late, I really do mean that. Then the Red Sox lost the series finale 7-3. Trevor again went 2 for 4 in that series with 1 RBI. He continues to absolutely roll. He's now at a 261 batting average, 304 on base percentage, and 431 slugging. And Trevor Story's productivity is a huge difference maker for this Red Sox lineup. I talked about it on a previous show recently, how Trevor Story has been that factor that has changed the competitiveness of where the Red Sox are at right now. Because when you bat in the middle of the order, you can't be an automatic out. And Trevor Story over the last few seasons, partially because he was battling injury, let's give him the benefit of the doubt here, was somebody who felt like was going to be more of an automatic out than it should have felt like. And I wasn't saying he was going up there every at bat and completely crapping the bed. I mean, he would have really bad at bats and non-competitive in which he would strike out a lot. But where he hits in the lineup, how much the Red Sox are paying him and what they expect from him, he wasn't living up to those expectations as a hitter. Now this year, you find yourself saying, wow, I want Story to be up. I feel like he'll get a hit and come through here for this Red Sox team. So there's a lot to be said for having a fully healthy season. And he's showing us this year that him having a fully healthy season is really beneficial to this Red Sox team. And not to mention his defense, which is phenomenal at shortstop. A lot of the lunging plays that he makes or the across the body throws in which he's in motion, those are really strong plays that not the average shortstop makes. So we really do need Trevor Story here in a variety of different ways. But other than that, lots of players continuing to hit well in game 2 of the series. Wilyer Abreu went 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. He's been another guy who's been a huge standout for this Red Sox team. Jarren Duran in the first game of the series when the Red Sox won 8-5 had himself a game. He went 1 for 4 and drove in 3 runs. He hit a home run in that game, and he made a couple really nice plays defensively. So Jarren Duran, ever since the trade deadline, has really been heating up, and he must have heard all the talk from people saying we should trade Jarren Duran because he is playing with so much more confidence now. He's really making things happen. And I think he's happy that the Red Sox didn't trade him and that he's still here and he doesn't want to disappoint anybody. So another big standout, I would say, that's worth being talked about is Jarren Duran. Lots of things that you can pinpoint to, but this series showed again that the Red Sox are legitimate. They're not going to go down without a fight, and their defense is going to get the job done more often than not, which is nice to say because the defense was a huge issue early on in the season, and now that's starting to click. The offense goes without saying. The Red Sox are going to score runs. They continue to pile it on most nights. Obviously, last night's game, Michael Wacha kind of mowed over the Red Sox lineup, but generally the Red Sox take really competitive at-bats and make pitchers work. That's the biggest thing here. That's key, is make pitchers work. And the Red Sox have been doing a lot of that as of late. And that's winning them lots of games. So I noticed a lot of good things from this series. Hyped about what I saw from Brayan Bello. Now let's hope the Red Sox can continue that momentum into what's going to be a really tough road trip coming up here. But I do appreciate you tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen of every day. Next, be sure to check out Locked On MLB Game Night, which is on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or any other podcast platform. It's basically our Locked On hosts going over every game every night for the entirety of the season. So you can get local analysis on a national scale. Just make sure you find that next wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a great show. Like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.